World War II became the deadliest conflict in human history. But the price was not paid equally. Some countries lost thousands, others lost hundreds of thousands, and some watched entire generations disappear. As we move through every country, the numbers will rise from shocking to almost unimaginable. Near the end, one nation lost around 15 million people. But even that wasn't the highest, because one country paid the ultimate price, more than 25 million lives. Which country was it? Let's begin. At first, the numbers seem almost insignificant compared with what is still to come. But even nations far from the main battlefields were pulled into the war. Iceland became a crucial Allied position in the North Atlantic, while Iran was occupied by British and Soviet forces to secure vital supply routes. In the Pacific, tiny islands such as Midway became the setting for battles that changed the course of the war. And Malta endured relentless bombing because of its strategic position in the Mediterranean. Brazil would eventually send thousands of troops to fight in Europe. Yet these losses are only the beginning. From here, the numbers start to climb. By now, the war had reached almost every corner of the world. Iran was occupied by British and Soviet forces, securing a vital supply route to the Soviet Union. Across the Pacific, remote islands suddenly became strategically important battlefields. Wake Island fell to Japan after fierce resistance, while Malta endured years of bombing and blockade because of its crucial position in the Mediterranean. Brazil, meanwhile, became the only South American nation to send a major expeditionary force to fight in Europe. In occupied Europe, even relatively small countries paid a heavy price. Luxembourg suffered occupation, persecution, and deportations, while Denmark was invaded by Germany in a matter of hours in April 1940. But one name in this section changed the course of the war: Midway. In June 1942, American forces sank 4 Japanese aircraft carriers in a battle that permanently weakened Japan's offensive power in the Pacific. And yet, look at the numbers on screen. We are still counting deaths in the hundreds and thousands. Soon, that changes. The countries ahead will lose tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and eventually millions. And the greatest losses are still far ahead. The numbers are rising, and the war is becoming truly global. Across North Africa, British, Commonwealth, German and Italian forces fought for control of the desert and the Mediterranean. Battles such as Tobruk and El Alamein would become symbols of this brutal campaign. At the same time, another deadly struggle was unfolding far from land. In the North Atlantic, German U-boats hunted the merchant ships and convoys, carrying the supplies Britain desperately needed. Thousands died in a campaign that Winston Churchill would later describe as one of Britain's greatest wartime dangers. Norway had already fallen under German occupation, while nations thousands of miles away were sending their own men into battle. New Zealand and South Africa each suffered thousands of military deaths, fighting in campaigns far beyond their own borders. And in the Pacific, the character of the war was becoming increasingly brutal. Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands became battlegrounds in the struggle to stop Japan's advance. Then came Saipan. The battle was fought with extraordinary intensity, and thousands of Japanese civilians also died as American forces captured the strategically vital island. By now, we have reached losses measured in tens of thousands. But even these numbers will soon seem small, because the next stage takes us toward countries where the dead would be counted not in thousands, but in hundreds of thousands. The death toll has now entered the tens of thousands, and occupation is becoming just as deadly as the battlefield itself. Across Southeast Asia and the Pacific, Japanese expansion brought fighting to New Guinea Bali, and countless islands across the region. Australia lost nearly 40,000 military personnel during the war, fighting from North Africa to the Pacific. Canada paid an even higher price. More than 45,000 Canadians died, with Canadian forces playing a crucial role on D-Day and in the liberation of Western Europe. But across Asia, civilians were increasingly trapped behind enemy lines. Hong Kong fell to Japan in December 1941. Singapore followed just weeks later, one of the most devastating British defeats of the entire war. Occupation brought executions, persecution, and widespread suffering. Then, in February 1945, American forces landed on Iwo Jima. The tiny volcanic island became the scene of one of the fiercest battles of the Pacific War. Almost the entire Japanese garrison was killed, while thousands of Americans also died taking the island. Back in Europe, Belgium had endured invasion, occupation, persecution, and bombing. And now, the numbers on screen are approaching 100,000. But we haven't reached the countries where entire cities, and eventually entire populations, would be devastated. The next figures cross another terrifying threshold. We have now crossed into six-figure death tolls. Okinawa became the final great island battle of the Pacific, a preview of just how catastrophic an invasion of Japan itself might have been. But in Europe, another kind of destruction had consumed entire communities. Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania endured both Soviet and Nazi occupation. The Holocaust devastated the region's Jewish population, while war, executions, and deportations added to the human cost. The Netherlands and Czechoslovakia suffered occupation and persecution as well. Then come two of the most recognizable Allied powers. The United States lost more than 400,000 people, overwhelmingly military personnel, while fighting across both Europe and the Pacific. Britain's losses climbed even higher. The Blitz brought the war directly to British cities, while soldiers, sailors, and airmen fought from the Atlantic to North Africa and beyond. Italy entered the war alongside Nazi Germany before the country itself became a battlefield. France suffered invasion, occupation, resistance, deportation, and liberation. But watch what happens next. In the Philippines, Japanese occupation and the battle for liberation produced enormous civilian losses. Greece endured occupation, reprisals, and a devastating wartime famine. Romania, meanwhile, fought alongside the Axis before changing sides in 1944. We are now approaching 1 million deaths for a single country, and yet we are still nowhere near the top. Ahead are nations that lost millions, and one of them would lose more people than the entire populations of many countries at the time. Then the numbers become almost unimaginable. Poland lost around 5.6 million people. China, roughly 15 million. And finally, the answer to our opening question. The Soviet Union, more than 25 million lives lost. The highest death toll of World War II.